Doreen Granpeesheh is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Wants to know, can you talk about suggestions for ASD and device addiction? I think we should do a whole show on that personally. But she says, I have a 13-year-old who has aggression around devices. And she says that she is working with an ABA provider and he's doing better, but I have to spend a lot of time managing him. The devices...
Devices being like iPads and iPhones.
They don't want to have
I
to...
mean,
if you have any kind, it's like the magic thing, and if you do anything to break, I think we've all experienced this. I will say that for me, my son, I didn't let him have devices until he was later and had more communication capability. And what I said to him when I would ask him to get off of it and he would throw a tantrum, or I think there was one time that he threw something and I said, what you're teaching me right now is that you can't handle that. So we should put that in a timeout. Or you could teach me how well you're able to put it aside and deal with it maturely. You can choose what you want to teach me right now.
Yep.
And then we would have to revisit that discussion from time to time. But I would love to hear from you. What do you, because not everybody has the ability to understand that when they have devices. You have a 5-year-old, they chuck the iPad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, first of all, and that you bring up a whole different point, I think, Shannon, which is also very important, is like how we treat our devices and, you know, the challenging behaviors around the device, which is very important as well. And I think that there's different levels to it. So when we start with children who are using a device, first of all, you have to set up a schedule. So you have to be okay. I never tell a parent, oh no, just don't allow him to have the device. Don't allow him to have TV or something like that, because those are reinforcers. And you need to think of this device as a very powerful reinforcer. It's your friend. It's not your enemy. It's your parent. It's your friend, because this is a powerful tool that you can use to get your child to do behaviors that you want them to do. So think of it that way first. It's not just a recreational item, right? So you will put it on a schedule in the sense that your child can earn it for whatever it is that you want, and they should have as much of it or as little of it as you think is appropriate, right? With time, and it's funny that you talk about when, you know, years ago or 10 or 20 years ago, it was a very different world than it is now. And with time, use of devices becomes more and more common and therefore more and more okay. So the interesting thing is I look at like my son, who is 23 now, and I was talking to him yesterday actually about like some of his hobbies. And a hobby that a lot of our kids have these days is gaming, right? And they interact socially with other people through gaming. And that involves just a complete antisocial type of behavior if you were to define it according to our standards 20 years ago, right? Because they have headphones on, they're on a screen, and they're like this, and they're talking to the person and multiple people maybe in the group, but you could, you know, put yourself on fire next to them and they would be oblivious to that. But that's okay, that is socially acceptable, and it is something that is what would be unacceptable for me, for instance, is if he was gaming when it's time for dinner. And so you set the rules according to what works for you, and you allow your child to have those things. And by the way, only if things are going pretty well. Like if your child is throwing the object, or if your child has had a rough, you know, like has had a very, very bad day because they're like acting out in multiple other ways, that's not necessarily a day you want to reward them with this object, right? And you gradually will teach your child that, hey, they can have half an hour of a device and put it on a schedule. That's what's really important, and let your child know ahead of time with a visual that, you know, I've done these things. I have like my 5 tokens or my 5 tasks, depends on your functioning level, obviously. And I've done all these things, and therefore today I have my free time and I can choose these things, and my device is one of them. And so that's what I'm going to do. And it's okay with you, and more importantly, it's fair to your child. That's what's really, really important, is that all of us, by the way, always need, for happiness. I'm reading a lot these days about happiness, which I love this literature. And it really, a lot of our happiness depends on having something to work towards, a goal, a mission, something that is meaningful, and then actually working towards it and gaining that sense of accomplishment or that thing, and then the reward that we worked for. So that's kind of an important thing that you can allow your child to have. Don't think of the device as a horrible thing anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
That being said, obviously we don't want our kids on devices 24/7 because they're not learning necessarily.
Right. But the amazing dad who came, and he's a friend of yours, and I can never remember his name, but he talked to us about the fact that he thought of it as being something that was horrible, and then, yes, thank you. And then he sat down and started playing a game that his son liked to play,
Right.
and instead what he found was a way to connect with his child.
Right.
And so they played like 2 or 3 games together, and he said, and then I understood why there are times when I'll say it's dinner time, and he was like, I can't come now, I will lose 3 days worth of work if I come now.
Yep.
And that he can now understand it. So I do think that there's something to be said for that.
If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.
Don't forget, you can watch Ask Dr. Doreen live every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time on autismnetwork.com. We hope to see you there.